He aided that survival of this young patient, giving him another chance at life. And, you know, everybody up here, we're truly, truly, and I'm sure everybody out there are truly, truly grateful for the heroes that you are. Chief.
Yeah, definitely.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, it's really all about them. They are the true heroes that make changes every day. And this is just one example of the work that the men and women of Bernalillo County Fire and Rescue do every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They save lives, they change lives, they make a difference. So again, huge kudos to the gentlemen that are behind me and to all the men and women that are out there serving right now as we speak. We can never thank them enough. So again, thank you, gentlemen, and thank you to all of the members of Bernalillo County Fire and Rescue for all they do every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, all very much. We truly appreciate your work. Now we move on to public comment, item 6. Each person will have 2 minutes, and you will be alerted about your remaining time. When your name is called, please make your way to the podium if you are speaking in person. Before making your statements, please state your name for the record. To maintain order and decorum and in the spirit of professionalism and respect for everyone present, we ask that speakers adhere to the 2-minute time limit. If the conduct of the presenter violates these rules, they may be subject to removal. Julianne, will you please call the first name?
Madam Chair, we have 6 speakers this evening, all in person, and we'll start off with Representative Art de la Cruz, followed by Don Schrader, followed by Geraldo Cionello.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening, Representative.
I'm going to do my best in those 2 minutes.
Oh,
Madam Chair, it's a pleasure to be here with you to speak on behalf of someone that I consider a giant in our community, and that is Henry Kiki Saavedra. You know, Representative Saavedra, he did 25 years, if memory serves right, as a professional in the Parks and Recreation profession. He did another 37 years as a state representative. He did 62 years of his 82 years of life serving the public. And I consider him a giant because not only was he amazing and worked tirelessly for his community, but he did that for the entire state of New Mexico. And I feel fortunate that, and coincidentally, that I have much smaller footprint than him. He was in appropriations, and he was the chair of appropriations. I'm in appropriations. He was in transportation. I'm in transportation and infrastructure. And so I feel proud of having that little bit of correlation to him. But the reality is that the reason this request to you all that the Mountain View Community Center be named after Henry Kiki Saavedra, Kiki as we all knew him, is because of what he did for not only his community, but all of New Mexico. Just briefly, I'm not going to be able to recall all of the projects that he funded, that he helped fund and were important to his community, but I can tell you of at least a couple of them. First of all, he was the driver for getting the funding for Mountain View Community Center. And I can tell you that because I was the director of Parks and Recreation at that time. He originally wanted to build it on 2nd Street, but I said, Representative, we have a defunct park that is nothing but weeds now in Mountain View. That would be a great location. We don't have to buy land. We can just build a facility. He said, okay, and we did. He also was the driver and got the funding for the Los Padillas communities, swimming pool in Los Padillas.
Please continue.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Representative, thank you.
And the county bought land, and now there's a pool there. There are so many in the city of Albuquerque, as well as the county, of what this man did. Now, It's easy to say, oh, well, that was his job. Well, in case anybody forgets, we're volunteers. Mr. Speaker, you were a volunteer. We were volunteers. He was a volunteer. And so I appreciate that this is on the consent agenda, Madam Chair, because it is a worthy effort to do. And I look forward to seeing that beautiful sign in the Mountain View Community Center that says Henry Kiki Saavedra. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank all of you for your service.
Thank you, Representative. I just wanted to take a personal privilege here, and also I worked with Kiki Saavedra for many years, and I just would thank you for coming forward and recognizing him. He was a great man in the field of parks and recreation, but also up in the Roundhouse. He did a lot for the state, so thank you.
Mr. Don Schrader, followed by Gerardo Cionello, followed by Victoria Martin.
Don Schrader. Millions of soldiers in the United States, Israel, and many nations believe God wants them to murder human beings when their government tells them to. The U.S. military hires chaplains to convince soldiers God approves murder in war. I do not pledge allegiance to the U.S. flag or to any nation's flag. My country is a whole world. I oppose all wars. 1/3 to 1/2 of federal income tax goes for U.S. wars, past, present, future. I have paid no federal income tax for 45 years. I enjoy living simply below the federal income taxable level. For me, to pay federal income tax to train and equip young men and women to become professional hired killers, to murder on command with no conscience, would be more evil than being a soldier myself. The United States murdered at least 3 million women, kids, and men in Vietnam. That is 1,000 times the 3,000 people murdered in New York City and Washington, D.C. on 9/11/2001. Many millions worldwide fear and hate the U.S. government more than any other government on earth. 56 years ago, Prophet Martin Luther King Jr. damned the Vietnam War. He said, "The greatest purveyor of violence in the world today is my own government." Sadly, still true.
Thank you, Mr. Schrader.
Gerardo Cionello, followed by Victoria Martin, followed by Jana Perez.
Well, good evening, Madam Chair and County Commissioners, and thank you for serving. I'm Dr. Gerardo Cionello, an alternative health doctor and minister. I waited 9 years to be a naturalized U.S. citizen legally. Are you all fully aware of what's happening at our southern border? U.S. Senators Cornyn and Cruz suggested that many of the so-called gotaways run from law enforcement because they're smuggling illegal drugs like fentanyl into the country. However, both expressed greater concern about the possibility of radicalized terrorists entering the country illegally across the southern border with Mexico. What happened in Israel on October 7 is a reminder that terrorist organizations can strike at any time, they said. And while we know that on September 11, 2001, 19 terrorists killed 3,000 Americans, we know that there have been hundreds or more of people on the terrorist watch list that have been detected at the border. Cruz added that Border Patrol agents were frustrated beyond belief at Biden administration policies that led to illegal immigrants being released after the agents had risked their lives to detain them. Potential terrorists are attempting to cross our southern border. In September alone, 18 illegal immigrants on the terror watch list were caught at the border. The attack on Israel should serve as a warning as to why we must secure the border. That said, we all know that elections have consequences. Imagine Hamas, and the word Hamas in Hebrew means violence. Imagine Hamas terrorist infiltration into Valencia County, Bernalillo County, San Juan County, and other counties. Are our chief law enforcement sheriffs and their deputies prepared to protect you, your families, and your constituents? Proverbs 22:3 says, "A sensible person foresees danger and takes precautions, but the gullible people continue on and suffer the consequences and are punished." Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Victoria Martin. You have been provided some work done on Tijeras based on a downloaded voter registration file dated November 13th, 2023, that is, the Monday after local elections occurred, screenshots of election results reported by the Secretary of State on December 12th, 2023, and analysis of those 17 precincts for Tijeras. What is there to see? First, of the 10,860 records covering those 17 precincts, 7,593 are addresses within Tijeras. The remaining 3,267 records have addresses in Albuquerque, Cedar Crest, Edgewood, and Sandia Park. In other words, Tijeras is 70% of those 17 precincts. Second, the Secretary of State doesn't seem to want to show detail for absentee early and election day voting for the bond questions. Third, as an example, for the ledger-size sheet you have received, race number 8893, soil and water landowner with 4 candidates running, shows for precinct 572, total votes cast of 201. The voter registration database for that election shows 121 people participated. 9 other precincts show this type of difference, where the posted participation on the downloaded voter roll does not reconcile, even close, to the election results proclaimed. Which is it? Across the nation, many analysts have their conclusions drawn. Every county tax-paying resident should be questioning why you run anything off of Secretary of State's database and are purchasing a warehouse to store her equipment that brings you these kinds of tainted results. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin.
Jana Perez, followed by Nadia Sam.
Thank you for having me. My name is Jana Perez. I'd like to talk about human trafficking in the education system for that. It is my belief that education in the public, for the public on what to look for and announcing the areas, the high areas and the other areas of concern would help deter the lawbreakers in providing that service, by providing the trainings and the information to the public. It would actually help me because I'm actually following people thinking that this might be a problem or this might be somebody that's transporting people in the U-Haul vans and stuff. But if we know where to look for them, if we know what we're looking for in human trafficking in our area, specifically Sandoval or even, Bernalillo, what are the high volumes? Where are they at? Where are they located? Who's doing this? It's in our neighborhoods, and we don't even know it. We don't even see it because it's at nighttime when we're trying to sleep. I feel that having Zoom meetings or in-house training, and face-to-face trainings that could help during the day, on the weekends, anything that we can do. I saw in the last meeting minutes that you guys were asking for monies, grant monies for multiple things, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why not ask for trainings for that, monies for that, grant monies for that? Also, I did see the minutes on naming the community center after somebody. I generally don't concur to those things, only that people like Bill Richardson,
Thank you, ma'am.
and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
But I agree, concur.
Nadia Sam.
Hello. My name is Nadia Sam. I was coming up here because my property is going under, I guess they're trying to destroy the property. I wanted to come up here and express that I am trying to get the property back. I want to go forward with it and try and see if I can possibly save the property. It's been in our family forever. So I wanted to go forward and see how we can go about. I know it's probably going to get destroyed, but I wanted to see if there was any possible way that I could still get it under my name, possibly. If you guys can go ahead and go over that, I'd be greatly appreciative if we can go forward from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sam. I think we will be hearing some of those later, so please stay with us.
And that concludes public comment.
Thank you. Item 7 on our agenda is appointments to advisory boards and committees, and the Middle Rio Grande Housing Collaborative appointments. I would like to say a few words, just recalling that the Middle Rio Grande Housing Collaborative is a new initiative. It's a collaborative between the City of Albuquerque and Bernalillo County. We have a joint powers agreement with the city, and it's very important that we also start with a governing body. And basically, this is a commission that it has 2 appointments from the city and 2 from the county. Then those 4 elect a 5th to assist us in the very important effort that we all have, all hands on deck statewide on creating more opportunities for housing, more affordable housing, and mixed-rate housing developments. So with that, I'll just introduce the 2, and then I'll defer to Commissioner Olivas. We have Dan Majewski and Serge Martinez that we are on the agenda. I just wanted to say a couple of things about each of these gentlemen. Dan Majewski is the director of the Urban Land Institute of New Mexico. ULI is a global network of real estate and land use professionals who shape the future of the built environment for transformative impact in communities. So this is, I think, a really good appointment recommended by Commissioner Olivas. And secondly, Serge Martinez is the Associate Dean and Professor of Experiential Learning at the University of New Mexico School of Law. He has a degree from Yale University and has a passion for affordable housing and legal issues that surround it. Serge will be able to give valuable insight and help the team that other people may not be able to offer with his extensive background in affordable housing. So with that, Commissioner Olivas, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say briefly that first I want to just urge my colleagues' support on these 2 appointments. I think it's really important that we get this board up and running and get our appointees on board. But these are some really good appointees. These are folks I think that bring a lot to the table. When we set the collaborative up, we really talked about making sure that this was a professional effort that really met the needs and filled the gaps that we see in our sort of housing portfolio in the whole region. And so, here we're bringing together, just on our side here with the county, 2 experts at, different areas of the profession, but bringing them together where they'll have a place to talk about these issues and work out differences and work towards creative solutions. So I think Dan brings a lot from the perspective of the development community, and Serge brings something from the legal and sort of advocacy side, that the work that he's done. So I think this is a really great duo here to kick this off, and I'm looking forward to seeing the city's appointees and where this goes next. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I move approval of these 2 nominees. Do I have a second? Sorry, didn't do that.
Second.
Any other questions or comments about this? If not, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Commissioner Casado.
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa.
Aye.
Commissioner Benson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olivas.
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Yes, Commissioner Barboa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make a comment. I'm excited. I got to see the resumes of these folks and hear from you about their qualifications. I agree that we want to move this. We have housing crisis and excited to see it moving. I'd like to just put forth, I know the city still gets 2 appointments, and if the appointees that we're appointing tonight would take into consideration also Diana Dorn-Jones and Rachel Biggs. I can give more information about that. I just wanted to say that publicly for consideration for the other formation on the board.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll move on to item 8, approval of the minutes. I move approval of the minutes of December 12th, 2023 administrative meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa,
Aye.
Commissioner Benson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Olivas,
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes,
So called.
thank you. Item 9, approval of consent agenda. Madam Clerk, can you please provide resolution numbers for items 9A and 9C?
Yes, ma'am. 9A1 is FR 2024-7. Number 2 is, FR 2024-8. 3 is FR 2024-9. 4 is FR 2024-10. C2 is FR 2024-11.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The consent agenda has been published and made available to the public. Therefore, I move approval of consent.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa,
Yes.
Commissioner Benson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Olivas,
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes.
So called.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item 10, adoption.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Sorry.
Commissioner Casella.
A point of personal privilege. I'd like to comment on item B. And thank you for supporting the renaming of the Mountain View Community Center to Henry Kiki Saavedra. From being a kid from these neighborhoods, it is important for us to look up to the leaders that have come from our communities. And the only way we see them and remember them is if we put their names up. And I'm hoping that, I'm so excited about this and I'm so excited about the community is I'm hoping staff will start with some temporary signs real quick, like this next week. And then those will sit until we can get the permanent signs so everybody knows what we did. And I think it's important that we look at leaders from these communities that come from these neighborhoods and grow up to be great citizens here in the state of New Mexico. So thank you all for the support of that. I know you believe the same, and I'm hoping that that's what happens moving forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. So we move on to item 10, adoption of ordinances and amendments to the county code. Item A, waterways safety ordinance amendments. Madam Clerk, can you please provide an ordinance number?
Yes, ma'am. Ordinance 2024-2.
Thank you. We'll now convene a public meeting. Did anyone sign up for this? Julianne?
Madam Chair, there are no signups for this item.
Okay. Seeing none, I move approval of ordinance 2024-2.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Commissioner Casada, did you have any other comments on that?
No, I mean, it just really does kind of put in the safety of the waterways and the systems. Unfortunately, as you know, they're finding ways to do that. I just saw that on the way over here to the meeting, and it's very dangerous for everybody, including, our unhoused citizens. And so I think this is a good way to go to give the power that we need to make sure that people who also maintain these ways, these waterways, that they're also protected. So it's pretty simple. That's about the sum of the amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
No other, County Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we get off of consent, I just wanted to acknowledge Buffy Saavedra, who is Kiki Saavedra's daughter. So I just wanted to acknowledge you, and I wanted to thank you for being here in support of your dad.
This is Layla, his great-granddaughter. Hi, Layla. Thank you.
Thanks.
you all.
Thank Buffy. Good.
Madam Chair, one last
Commissioner
point.
Pence.
Actually, the only point I'll make about the community center, the public comment we got, just to clarify, the speaker,
Representative De La Cruz?
no, Jana Perez.
Oh.
She actually ended by saying that she does support naming it after Kiki, that she normally doesn't, and gave some examples of why not, but she did support it. So another voice from the crowd. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we're
I just, if I could-
backward again. Okay, go.
I just want to take a quick, just because you're here, just to say, I got to, as a young person in the Roundhouse, see my South Valley Balboa family. So I got to see my family relatability, and now I spend most of my time doing the same work. So he was definitely someone I got to see in action in my early years, and I just really am grateful for his leadership and all he's done for our community. So, thank you.
I don't know if we're allowed to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, Chair. Sorry. So I'm Buffy Saavedra. I'm the
If you can
Well,
come to the
go ahead
podium,
and come
please.
to the mic. We're kind of taking a little step back to, to the consent agenda item. Go ahead.
Thank you. Buffy Saavedra, and I'm Kiki's oldest daughter. Grew up on South 2nd Street, so we lived there just about our whole life. We just sold the house probably about 10 years ago when he got sick. And I mean, we drove by Mountain View all the time, the elementary school, and then we finally got a community center down there. And, we grew up without water. We had our wells, and we always had challenges with that, and sewage issues and all sorts of things that he tackled. And, he was true to the district. He was actually physically born in the house next door to the house I grew up in, at my grandma and grandpa's, and he just served with all of his heart and soul, and he just loves the children, and I think it's just such an honor if the center is named after him, because he would just be so pleased with that. So I just wanted to thank you for your time, and my other siblings couldn't come today, and I just got back from Santa Fe myself with this little person, so... And so we appreciate you all, and thank you for your service as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Buffy, and thank you for all you do for our seniors. We used
Oh,
to work together with
absolutely. How are
senior
you, Barbara?
services.
So
Very
good
well.
to see you. Oh, my
Welcome.
gosh. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And that is done. We have named it after your father, Kiki Saavedra. So, yay.
Yeah.
Now we'll move back to the item on under consideration. It's been moved and seconded. And we need a roll call vote, please, for ordinance 2024-2.
Commissioner Casada.
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa.
Yes.
Commissioner Benson.
Yes, and I just want to say, well done, Commissioner Quesada, for tightening this ordinance and reinforcing the safety and the law of the entire thing. Thank you.
Vice Chair Olivas.
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes.
So called.
Okay, we move on to item 10B, Finance, adoption of ordinance allowing the continuation of the healthcare gross receipts tax. Madam Clerk, can you please provide an ordinance number?
Yes, ma'am. Ordinance 2024-3.
And we will convene a public hearing, and then we'll listen to Ms. Benavides present, please. Is there anyone?
Madam Chair, there are no speakers for the
No
public hearing
speakers.
item.
Great. Thank you.
Good
Please.
evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I'm Denise Benavides. I'm the Principal Financial Analyst for the Finance Division. As you recall, on December 12th, the commission approved the introduction and approval for publication of an amendment of the Bernalillo County Code to extend the 1/16th healthcare gross receipts tax for an additional 5 year pursuant to the New Mexico State Statute, Section 7-20E-8-18B, which allows for continuance of the healthcare GRT in 5 year increments with board approval. This tax is utilized to support various services for the benefit of the indigent residents of Bernalillo County. With the board approval, the ordinance will be published for 30 days. Adoption will ensure there's no interruptions in funding for an additional 5 years and will amend the code to ensure the delayed repeal date of June 20th, 2029 is appropriately published in the Bernalillo County Code, replacing the current repeal date of June 30th of 2024. The New Mexico Taxation and Revenue Department requires an amendment to the delay repeal to be approved and submitted to them by March 31st of 2024 to be effective July 1st, 2024, which would be fiscal year 25. So I'll stand for questions.
Any questions of this? No? So I will move approval of ordinance 2024-3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Casada.
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa.
Aye.
Commissioner Benson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olivas.
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes.
So called.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Denise. Is this you as well? Item C, Finance. Adoption of the ordinance authorizing issuance, sale of Bernalillo County, New Mexico GO Bonds Series 2024. Madam Clerk, please provide an ordinance number.
Ordinance 2024-4.
Great. Benavides.
So as you recall, on December 12th, the commission approved the publication of the notice of intent to adopt the ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of the Bernalillo County, New Mexico General Obligation Bond Series 2024 in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $21,115,000. The notice has been published for the required 30 days. Proceeds from this sale will be used for public housing, parks and recreation, public safety, fleet and heavy equipment, and the library. Interest rate on the bonds will be determined via competitive sale process. Bids will be scheduled through the Grant Street Auction electronic website on or after February 26th. The county will have about 30 days to finalize the sale, with the proceeds expected to be available in March. Final interest rates will be provided to the county commission at the administrative meeting following the sale. Property tax revenue projections are adequate to fund the sale with no increase to the current bond debt mill rate of 1.265. Finance is recommending the approval to adopt the ordinance. I stand for questions.
We will now convene a public hearing. Is there anyone signed up to speak? Julie?
Madam Chair, there are no speakers for this
No
item.
speakers. So I move adoption of ordinance 2024-4. I have a second?
Second, and Madam Chair.
Second, yes, discussion. Commissioner Benson.
Yes, thank you. I do second this, and I just want to reiterate to my colleagues here on the commission how this is $21 million is a lot of money, and with interest rates increasing, it's essential that we keep our credit rating. So thank you, county staff, Madam County Manager, Ms. Reagan, and the entire Bernalillo County staff, the entire employee staff, for doing such a good job of managing our expenses and ratios and reserves. And I just, this is going out, and I'm just grateful that we have the highest bond rating possible, because there's a lot of people that don't, a lot of entities that don't, including our neighbors. So, yeah, we must respect debt, and I just want to reiterate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? Okay, if not, let's see, a motion to approve ordinance 2024-4. Has that happened yet? Second. That's been moved and seconded. Thank you, sorry.
All righty.
Got distracted. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Casada.
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa.
Yes.
Commissioner Benson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olivas.
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Okay, now we move to Planning and Development Services, 10D, zoning code amendment, minor amendments to special use permits. Madam Clerk, can you please provide an ordinance number?
Ordinance 2024-5.
And we have Ms. Gould.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This is, as you said, an amendment to the zoning code that would allow the zoning administrator, and I am the zoning administrator as well as our hearing officer. I'm sorry about that. This would allow the zoning administrator to approve minor changes to existing special use permits without a public hearing or public notice, provided that the change is less than 10% of what was originally approved, and that the amendment does not decrease the amount of total open space, does not reduce the amount of landscaping that was approved, doesn't reduce screening or buffer requirements, doesn't increase traffic, doesn't decrease the approved number of streets, sidewalks, trails, or trails connections, and doesn't reduce setbacks adjacent to residential use. So again, something that would be fairly minor. And these are basically changes that weren't anticipated at the time something was approved. Something like, a restaurant needing to lose a parking space because they need to reconfigure space for a walk-in cooler, or an access agreement that wasn't completely executed at the time something was approved, and so landscaping needs to be moved. But again, things that are minor. Changes that don't meet these criteria would go either through the zoning administrator hearing or back to the county commission, depending on the nature of those amendments. The amendment also allows the county the right to send things through the public hearing process if we believe that something is controversial or requires extra scrutiny. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
This was advertised and we will convene a public hearing, but there is no one signed up to speak, so I will take questions from the commission or discussion. And move approval of ordinance 2024-5.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Casada.
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa.
Yes.
Commissioner Benson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olivas.
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes.
So
Thank
called.
you, Ms. Gould. Item 10E, again, Ms. Gould?
Ms. Gould?
Please.
Okay. Again, proposed amendments to our zoning code. This is pretty much a clerical fix. Currently, the C1 neighborhood commercial zone lists school as both a permissive and a conditional use. This amendment will remove it as a conditional use as it's currently treated as a permissive use. This listing is confusing for new staff and for members of the public, so this is basically just a cleanup to clarify permissive uses in the C1 zone of the zoning code.
Yeah, just clean up. Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please provide an ordinance number?
Yes, ma'am. 2024-6.
-6. And again, it's been advertised and we have convened a public hearing, but there is no one to speak, so I move approval of ordinance 2024-6. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Casada.
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa.
Yes.
Commissioner Benson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olivas.
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes, thank you. Item 10F, Ms. Gould.
All right. Once again, amendment to the zoning code. This creates a mobile food establishment court, so a group of mobile food establishments or food trucks. This would be allowed as a conditional use in the C1 zone and as a permissive use in all higher zones. The current regulations allow up to 2 mobile food establishments on a lot. This would allow multiple food establishments on a lot, but would require a site plan to ensure that there is proper access and proper sanitation and enough parking. So the idea here is that especially for properties in our more industrial areas, this may give those people more food options, and it may provide some additional options for the entrepreneurs running our food trucks, but still having some criteria so that this is not burdensome to communities, so that you have appropriate sanitation, appropriate parking, really trying to create a good balance here.
Great. I'm happy to hear that there will be a required site plan and review, and that's very important for the community to know what's coming into their neighborhood. So, Madam Clerk, can you please provide an ordinance number?
Ordinance 2024-7.
And has been advertised, and we will convene a public hearing, but I understand no one is signed up to speak. Questions or comments? I move approval of ordinance 2024-7.
Madam Chair, actually, I would like to make a comment.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you for working on this to clarify the language and to allow more food trucks. More entrepreneurship is better, especially when we can partner and clarify the rules to set guidelines. So thank you for doing this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Casada.
In our district, there's lots where there's 5 or 6 of them at any day of the week. And they're very popular on our side of town because, those are our restaurants. So we appreciate that the county's doing what the city's doing. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
I need a second here, I think. And second by Commissioner Barboa. Okay, we need a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Casada.
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa.
Yes.
Commissioner Benson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olivas.
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes.
So called.
And item G. Ms. Gould, you too?
Yes. So our final text amendment, This is a proposed change in order to clarify the notice process for amendments to sector development plans. So the current regulation requires notice to property owners within 500 feet of the sector development plan. We propose shortening that to 200 feet. And again, this impacts property owners on the outside of the sector development plan. So this would go from a 500-foot buffer to a 200-foot buffer around the sector plan, but would not change the requirements for property owners within the sector plan or for neighborhood associations within the sector plan. And some of this comes out of recent changes we did to the East Letta Boulevard and Village Center sector development plan to update some things that had been updated both statewide and in the county zoning code. We sent out, I think, approximately 2,600 letters, and we got about 5 responses back. And so, again, we want to be transparent. We want the public to know what's going on, but we also want to be efficient in our county process. And so we hope that this amendment strikes a balance between good public notice, but also, having our process be an appropriate process.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please provide an ordinance number?
Ordinance 2024-8.
And again, we will convene a public hearing, but no one has signed up to speak, so I move approval of ordinance 2024-8.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, concerns? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Casada.
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa.
Yes.
Commissioner Benson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olivas.
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes.
So called.
Thank you, Ms. Gould. And
Madam
Mr.
Chair and
Howell.
Commissioners, thank you.
Thank you for your good work. Item 11, adoption of resolutions. Madam Clerk, can you please provide resolution numbers for the following items? Let's see, 11A.
11A is AR 2024-12.
Shall we go through all of them?
If you'd like to.
11B?
B is AR 2024-13. C is AR 2024-14. D as in David is 2024-15.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now we go to the top. Economic Development, IRBs, Mr. Marcos Gonzalez.
Madam Chair and members of the Commission, Marcos Gonzalez, Executive Development Officer for Bernalillo County. The Economic Development staff recommends the approval of the inducement resolution authorizing the Bernalillo County Commission to approve an industrial revenue bond application on behalf of Sun Lasso Energy Center for a new battery energy storage system. Would like to note that the bonds will provide certain tax exemptions to defray part of the cost of the project, and the county is not making a loan or lending its credit to the company. And lastly, would like to add that we are requesting a floor amendment for this item. We are requesting that the term in section 12, line 12, be amended from 180 days to 1 year. And with that, I'll stand for questions, Madam Chair.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Gonzalez?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to let everybody know that when they first came to us, we, they said, hey, it's just a battery storage facility. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. What is that? Are you storing batteries? What's going on? What they're really doing is they're storing energy. And so I asked them to please add that into what we were approving this evening, because what we're doing is this company will be storing energy and then they'll sell it back to P&M as necessary. And I think this is a really good step forward to really putting a grid together, because if our future is, all electric, then we are going to have the ability to do that. And I think this is the beginning stages of putting the proper infrastructure in place. So I appreciate your support. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Benson.
I'd like to ask Mr. Gonzalez a question. Can you explain a little about the financial investment that Sun Lasso will be doing with this assumed approval of the IRB?
Sure, Madam Chair and Commissioner Benson. The company will be investing a little over $205 million to develop the facility, and this IRB is for equipment only, so for the equipment to operate the facility, so that those tax exemptions will just be on the equipment only, and then they will still pay their property taxes as normal, as billed through the county treasurer.
Thank you, thank you. And that being said, I'm saying the obvious, but just for the public understanding, the property taxes will be going up because of this investment that wouldn't have necessarily gone up otherwise.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Benson, great, there'll be some new development on the property. Right now, there's just a couple structures, but there would be increased activity on it. Would assume the property tax would go up. Don't want to speak for the assessor, but that is the assumption, yes, sir.
Right, and then with that, the ancillary investments that will come in over time around this development will be there because of the infrastructure that's in place. Is that correct?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Benson, correct. As we continue to add infrastructure components in, we can see more activity in the corridor as well. And for the public's knowledge, this is on 100 and it's on 98th Street and Central area.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted some clarification on the dollar amounts. It makes sense, and sometimes it helps to spell out why it makes so much sense. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Casar.
Yeah, I just want to let Commissioner Benson know that right now on that land is like 4 or 5 old mobile homes that are, are falling apart, and they're breaking into them for people looking for shelter. I think 2 of them are have burnt out. And they're building a brand new restaurant actually right next to that. So we are getting restaurants. And so there is some development coming already there. So we think this would be a catapult also to more.
So on the floor amendment, I move approval of your floor amendment. We need to do the amendment first, okay? Thank you. Any discussion on that? Okay, so we call a roll call vote for the amendment.
Commissioner Casada.
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa.
Yes.
Commissioner Benson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olivas.
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes.
So called.
Okay, and then back to the bill. I move approval of the inducement resolution AR 2024-12.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? A roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Casada.
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa.
Aye.
Commissioner Benson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olivas.
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes.
So called.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Item 11B is Planning and Development Services. Mr. Nick Hem, nuisance abatement.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Nicholas Ham, Director for Planning and Development Services. There are 3 nuisance abatement cases in front of you this evening. The first 2 are associated with the same property address. They are just legally subdivided properties, hence the 2 separate case numbers. Just to address right off the bat, we heard from Ms. Sam here, who is the prospective property owner of one of these. Should she be able to complete the probate process or provide evidence sufficient to the county, and I'm happy to work with Mr. Martinez's team to determine what that might constitute, we would happily accept a demolition permit from a responsible party to be able to undertake this work themselves. I would still urge your support tonight to have county authority to pursue this if we can't cross that particular juncture. This property, the property on the record, they're deceased. Ms. Sam's confirmed that in just a discussion with her this evening. So there is no person on record that the county can identify as the responsible party. This is a property that our code enforcement team has been working on since 2018, November specifically. It's in a significant state of disrepair, and I don't think that there's any disagreement, even in a conversation that I had with Ms. Sam this evening about the property's condition. She's expressed to me, and I'll let her speak for herself if she'd like to say this as well, that she intends to also take those structures down, provided that she has the opportunity to do so. So our end goal is aligned here. It now becomes a question of who has the authority and the permission to do that. The property nuisance abatement ordinance is specifically designed that the county solicit the property owner or responsible party to do that through their own resources. And I intend to pursue that to its conclusion. So I would resolve to work with Ms. Sam to be able to see if we can work with her to be able to do that herself. It would require either approval through probate or getting the blessing from county legal and the building official to show that there's evidence sufficient for us to be able to issue a permit to her. What we want to avoid in these situations is when these structures become abandoned, unsecured, and vacant, as this particular structure is, they attract folks to do things that we'd otherwise not want them to do in our residential areas. Just yesterday, Albuquerque Fire and Rescue had to respond to a property of a similar nature near Tingley Beach in the city of Albuquerque. So the risk of that occurring is ever present. It's something that we're very mindful of through this ordinance. That said, the goal of this is not to take property away from any individual. Even if you were to grant my department the authority to do this, that is not authority to take ownership of that property. It's actually something we specifically want to avoid. What it allows us to do is to solicit bids from contractors that can do the work, and we select the lowest number. We create a very competitive market for this. We pick the number that's lowest, and we ask for no money back other than this to the exact penny that we spend on doing this. So I would urge your support for the two items specific to the Pierre Road property to move forward. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to utilize that, but it does keep the process going. It does help the county fulfill its obligation under that ordinance, and it would close part of the loop on a 5-year code enforcement process that we've been working on this property. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Ham?
I don't, Madam Chair. I just hope that we resolve this in the right way. I don't like to see people who's had properties probably in their family for generations and lose them. So I'm hoping that we can come to a point where we do meet at the end of that road. So I will support it, but hoping that we work together and find a resolution before we would have to get to that point. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Benson and then Commissioner Barboa.
Mr. Ham, was Ms. Sam involved in any way in the last 5 years?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Benson, I don't recall her being involved in the hearing process. So the notification process for requests of this nature are such that certified mailing to the property owner of record, physical posting on the property, advertisement in the paper of general circulation. So we exhaust all of those. There's a picture in the record that you all have before you of the front door, or what remains of the front door, covered in postings regarding this process. So I can't say specifically from memory that the individual that's here tonight participated in this. Even if she were, without having established her particular ownership or responsibility over this, I don't know that that would have changed a lot of the calculus that went into this. Though now that we're aware of her, now that she's presented herself as a potential responsible person, I resolve and my staff resolves to continue to work with her to the conclusion of what we might see through the probate process. I will state that that's not without limit. I mean, we do have an obligation to the public to make sure these structures go away when they get to this state. But the directive in the ordinance, the way that the department conducts itself and administers this, is that we try to work with anybody that we can first before we resort to the other measures that we have available to us.
Thank you, Mr. Ham. Yeah, and I'll look forward to hearing from Ms. Sam. But 5 years is a long time, and we have an obligation to protect the entire public. So hopefully we can work this out, but yeah, I vote to proceed.
Commissioner Barboa.
I just wanted to clarify, I believe I heard you say that that there was no direct notice to who was the owner of the property? That's still unclear?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Barboa, the property owner of record is deceased. And so our obligation is to notify the last known address. And we work very closely with our treasurer and assessor colleagues because a lot of times they'll have more current data about property taxes and things of those nature. So we'll exhaust those avenues. We'll also work with Mr. Martinez's staff. They have a particular method of searching for individuals through just the legal process to identify parties. We exhausted that as well. So the individual here tonight, she was not ignored by design. It's just that the county has an obligation to look through its own records about who might be the last person that we know to be the owner of the property.
And I guess just for myself and hopefully is there a pathway for her to be able to prove and will she have support in that? I feel like every time we come up with these, there's of course legal things and without people, yeah, so is
Sure.
there.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Barboa, I see my role in this as to help all sides of this equation. Not only the public that lets us know about these properties in their neighborhood, but also the folks that might be caught in some sort of limbo with regard to property ownership. I can't say that I'll be an advocate for her particular side of this, but I will spend time and energy looking at anything that she has available that the county can look at to see if we can prove to a sufficient level to be able to allow her to pull a demolition permit. And I'll work with our legal department and ultimately the county's building official has the authority to see who they can issue demolition permits to. Ms. Rea is nothing if not practical and helpful in her administration of that code.
Okay, thank you. I hope it can come to a good resolve.
So I move adoption of the administrative resolution AR 2024 about this property. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and this is a resolution, so this isn't a back and forth, but Ms. Sam, we definitely would like you to work with Mr. Ham and our legal department, and he has satisfied my, I really do believe him, that he will reach out and work with you on this problem, and will help you through it, so we have time to do that. So roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Casado.
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa.
Aye.
Commissioner Benson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olivas.
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes. And item C is the same, so I will move adoption of the administrative resolution AR 2024-14.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, roll call vote, please, sorry.
Commissioner Casado.
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa.
Yes.
Commissioner Benson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olivas.
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes. 11D, Mr. Ham.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you. Still Nicholas Ham, still the Director for Planning and Development Services. This case I think is more straightforward. This is a property located in the East Mountains. Our code enforcement staff started working on this in 2019. This is just fundamentally an abandoned property. The individual that previously had ownership left, took what was either a mobile or a manufactured home with them, left all the accoutrement that go with that. So we have a dilapidated platform, we have a carcass of a recreational vehicle, we have what probably once was a shed of some sorts, but now is not something that I would consider that. We again exhausted the procedure to try and find a responsible party. The last known address was a registered address in Colorado. That property has since been sold to somebody else. That's where the trail went cold for us. So again, same thing, significant outreach. We heard about this from the community. They were concerned about the fire hazard associated with the things that were left behind. So again, the department would just like to utilize our resources to try and go clean this place up and hopefully someday return it to the wild so that someone else can redevelop it. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ham. I move adoption of administrative resolution AR 2024-15.
Second.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Olivas.
And I'll second. I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Ham for working on this property. This is a beautiful part of our community out off of the South 14 corridor. And, you know, it's a huge fire risk out there anytime that there is, frankly, anything, but especially anything that is abandoned like this. It as we know, it's a magnet for others that may not have the best intentions. And so I just appreciate the department and their work to clean this up.
Thank you, Commissioner Olivas. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Casado.
Aye.
Commissioner Barboa.
Yes.
Commissioner Benson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olivas.
Yes.
Madam Chair Baca.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Ham, for your
Thank
good
you,
work.
Commissioners. Appreciate it.
Item 12, we have no approval, so we're on to discussion. Item 13, County Manager, Department of Behavioral Health Services and Behavioral Health Initiative Quarterly Report. Jessica Jaramillo and Pam Acosta and Chief Pettis.
How do I get it up? Oh, at the back end. Well, you're going first. Okay. All right. Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and Commissioners. My name is Pam Acosta. I'm the Senior Manager for the Behavioral Health Initiative. Just going to give you a verbal rundown of some of our current spending right now to date. We are currently sitting at $21,411,314 in recurring dollars annually. We have spent thus far to date $59,369,254 in one-time dollars. And we have $2,945,833 in upcoming projects, which would include expansion of the Community Connection Supportive Housing Program, the school-based mobile health clinics, and the small provider grant. So those are still pending. We have currently 63 executed contracts with 45 providers. We're still operating 2 programs, the Tiny Home Village and the Resource Reentry Center. Projects that are currently ongoing and in progress are the school-based mobile health clinics, the small behavioral health grant, which I will give an update on. I have some items that I'd like to discuss of what we've done over the last quarter. And on the horizon, we have Medicaid third-party billing and a training center, youth detox, and data integration and a physical hub in our sites. So for the last 3 months, we've been fairly busy. In October, the Behavioral Health Initiative hosted our 3rd annual Provider Summit, where 130 providers, staff, and subcommittee members attended. Guest presenters and workshops were provided throughout the day. Workshops included jail diversion, trauma-informed care, grant writing tools, youth services, clinical documentation processes, and leadership. Also in October, there was 3 employees, myself included, Sarah Spain and Diane Dossel, were invited to Miami, Florida. We were accompanied by city employee Jody Jepson and UNM's Dr. Noah Painter Davis, who's a professor studying diversion, along with the community member Connie Vigil. We visited the Miami-Dade model and attended a conference called Decriminalizing Mental Illness, the Miami Model. The goal of the program was to improve court and community responses to those experiencing mental illness. We were able to visit the Miami Center for Mental Health and Recovery, and we heard from experts such as the Honorable Judge Stephen Leifman. We learned about their pre- and post-diversion efforts, the collaboration with their police mental health collaboration panel, the impact of their forensic peer recovery specialist, and the collaboration between their state attorney and public defender. Their program began in 2000. What we'd like to do is put together a presentation, bring it to here to explain to you exactly what we learned, what we can bring back to our community, what we're currently doing, and what we can add to that.
That would
What
be
we're
welcome.
missing.
That would be welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Other updates for BHI. In November, City Council voted to approve $1.5 million in opioid settlement funding for medication-assisted treatment services at the Metropolitan Detention Center. Of course, we're very thankful for that partnership with the city and the allocation of that funding. Also, during this last quarter, our fine Board of County Commissioners approved additional funding to continue the operations of Family Wellness Motel, which provides shelter to families. I have Deputy County Manager and Chief Pettis here if you have any specific questions about family wellness. But we have worked to expand this further, and we opened up an additional 22 beds as emergency shelter for the next 90 days because it's been so cold. And in the future, BHI will leverage some of our gross receipts tax to make this a recurring program. It's been so successful. In November, the county received a federal grant award from the Department of Health and Human Services, HRSA, which is the Health Resource and Services Administration, in the amount of $422,031. And this was dedicated towards the purchase of a new school-based mobile health clinic, so to add a third one. This grant was the result of a congressional directed spending request submitted by us at the county in April of 2022. And it was secured and supported by Congresswoman Stansberry. So we're very thankful for that. We're working with Fleet on ordering a new unit, but we've been told that we anticipate an 18 to 24-month build out on this third unit. We still are in the procurement process of selecting a vendor, and we believe that we will have one in by next quarterly update. So we're moving along on that. We're continuing to work with APS Dr. Christine Muir and her team regarding data, which shows which schools demonstrate the need and the capacity to hold the units on their property. The implementation plan from the Behavioral Health Working Group has been presented to the subcommittee members and to this commission. We're continuing to search for a deputy county manager for behavioral health. The city and the county are continuing to work together to explore a closed-loop referral system or data sharing system. And for Medicaid, we've met with some legislators to discuss the need to support that third-party Medicaid billing and training center. And we were connected with Nick Bucas, who's the director of Behavioral Health Services Division and acting CEO of the Behavioral Health Collaborative for the state. And he wants to partner together to help this effort and help lead the way. Lastly, I have two updates for the tiny homes and for Resource Reentry Center. We opened at the end of November, we opened up our applications for a 1-week period, and during that time, we received 310 applications. Staff are currently screening those applications and are interviewing and moving individuals in as we speak. We had some people who have left. Our current census is 20. The reason that it's not as high as I would hope is we had to make some repairs to some of the homes as they vacated, so we had to repaint them, replace some of the mattresses, and build out some frames. And let's see.
So Pam, excuse me, so you have 20 beds that are filled?
Currently.
And so vacants are, is that 16? How many total beds are there?
We have a total of 30 homes.
30.
And 20 are filled. I believe that they're moving in possibly 1 or 2 this week, and I know we have interviews scheduled for next week. Another challenge for us has been staffing. We're down 4 positions that we're trying to get filled right now. The trouble with that is not a lot of folks want to contribute to a graveyard shift. So it looks good on paper, and then they back out for something on day shift. But we're hoping to fill those. I spoke with Sarah Spain, who's the acting manager of Tiny Homes Village, and she anticipates that we should be up to 27 in the next maybe 3 weeks. And then from there, depending on when those other units are completely ready. We did hire a building maintenance that's dedicated to Tiny Homes Village and to the Resource Reentry Center. And so we think that those repairs will be done a lot faster now that we have this person on board. And lastly, the Resource Reentry Center has transitioned to a new data management system, and that organizes client and case information. It allows for easier tracking and the entering of information, transition plans, and reentry needs assessments. Allows us to pull up that information and then also track people that have come into the system if we've worked with them in the past. So that's been a huge help, and it's saved a lot of time as we're moving through the system, and it's user-friendly. So as we're meeting with clients, we're not keeping them for an hour. It cuts down in time that we have to spend with somebody and can move them onto resources. RRC is continuing to work closely with the DA's office and the Public Defender's office in diversion and connection to services in the community. We are still hosting the out-of-custody competency hearings and offering case management to individuals following their televideo interviews. And then in December, RRC staff provided on-site support for the Warrant Safe Surrender event. And they were tasked with meeting with individuals to assess their needs and connect them to resources as they turn themselves in to address their warrants, their outstanding warrants. And we'll continue to collaborate with the District Attorney's Office and Law Office of Public Defender on diversion and reentry. So I stand for any questions.
Any questions, Ms. Acosta? Commissioner Barboa.
Thank you, Ms. Pam Acosta, very much for the great update. I just wanted to, a couple things exciting. I was excited to hear what you all learned in Florida. I think some of what I understand is that, yeah, I would just love to hear what you think is possible here, given our legislature and our state policies, right? And then thankful to hear about the Provider Summit and just wanted to bring to attention that the county will be partnering with University of New Mexico to do the dual diagnosis summit, and hopefully we can just have that kind of participation. If the 130 providers were not within, was that county staff or providers that we grantees?
Providers that we granted included, I think there was maybe 8 staff members that also participated, but out of that 130 was providers. We had a really successful turnout.
And do the providers get like education credits or some kind of certificates or something? What is the summit like for their leadership development?
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioner Barboa. So unfortunately, we weren't able to offer CEU credits, but they did, get the certificate of attendance that they were there at the summit. We did have presenters there, but we didn't offer some CEUs.
Okay. Well, thank you for the updates. I'd love to hear for future updates how behavioral health inside MDC and the Resource Reentry Center, and updates on the staffing, including leadership around. I know Sarah Spade to be doing great at Resource Reentry Center and now at Tiny Home Village. And is she at both places?
Yeah, Madam Chair and Commissioner Barboa, just a quick update on that. So we are seeking a program manager for the Tiny Home Village, and we are in the process of extending an offer and waiting to hear back to see if this person has accepted and they would manage the Tiny Home Village and cut Sarah loose so she can focus all her attention on the Resource Reentry Center. And then, Madam Chair, I did forget that I had just 2 more updates, if that's okay with you. For future stuff, upcoming stuff to let you know. So as I mentioned, the update on the small provider grant, we are still in the procurement process for current submissions. We have a few people that have responded, but we are going to be re-releasing this RFP to solicit more providers. We want a larger pool of applicants. And what we would like to do is to post this RFP for 60 days, and during that 60 days to offer workshops so that folks can get the support. We really want to garner more attention. We got some feedback this last time that it was a complicated process. And so, Commissioner Barboa, I know you mentioned that, and so we heeded your words, and we're implementing that as we move forward. And then the other thing is that we should have our negotiated contracts for our school-based mobile health clinics by next quarter. So the next update, I'll be able to provide that information. And then we also finalized our upcoming 2024 audit schedule with Dr. Helen Tafoya, who's our clinical auditor. She goes into providers to help give feedback, make sure that they're following everything to a T, and then offer, any kind of recommendations and implement best practices. So that schedule has been finalized as well. So
Good to hear that. Thank you. Commissioner Barboa.
Madam Chair, if I may, thank you again. And what is the outreach process? So like you said, now the small provider RFP will go out again. How do folks know, since it's not on a regular schedule, what kind of announcements go out?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioner Barboa. So formal solicitation will be posted in the journal. Our procurement department is the one that will promote that. We will we'll announce it to our Addictions Treatment Advisory Board. We'll announce it to our steering committee, our subcommittees that we have currently in place. A word of mouth, we'll announce it to our providers. We want to extend that RFP to, even though it's a small provider grant, so any small provider who has an operating budget of $500,000 or less, we do want to extend it to our current providers who may be under that. And previously on the first round that we did with the RFP, we had it for, we had excluded anyone who had previously received BHI funding, and we want to expand that to allow them, because there may be some of our smaller programs that just need a little boost, and we want to support those individuals in growing and doing what they do.
Just one last question about that. Is there an opportunity to, for anyone is, do we keep a database of folks who have applied to be able to, push that back out in I'm not trying to create a whole new database for you all, but just if people have applied before and maybe not got funding, will they get this notice or?
So we used to have what was an idea portal where we've had people who have previously submitted information. So we can go back to that, to our old email archives, respond to those individuals to inform them. We do encourage folks to, anybody who's applied or has signed up for the bonfire through the county commission, through the county, will get alerts as well of new RFPs, but we're doing our best to make sure that we do a better job of promoting this, announcing it. I think we have some funding left over with Media Match, so if we can leverage that funding to do some additional promotion, we will. If it's allowed, I'll double check with procurement.
Thank you. No
Thank you.
further questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Pam.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Commissioner Olivas has a question.
Sorry, I have a few here. So I want to thank you, Ms. Acosta, for your good update here, and lots of good work happening in your department with behavioral health. There's still lots to do, but a couple things. So on the Miami model, I'm really interested in hearing your update on what you learned there, and specifically, how does it compare to what you know of some of the things that we're doing? I realize that there's a lot of players in this space, the state, the city, us. So, to the best of your knowledge, and I don't expect you to answer this now, but you mentioned a presentation, which I very much look forward to, incorporating sort of what do we already have, what is close to what they're doing, or what is the same as what they're doing, what are the gaps in our system relative to theirs, just to kind of fill in those blanks as we consider what you learned. And I know a little bit about it, but I'm sure you have a lot more in-depth knowledge now that you're able to visit. So that's the first one. The second one is, let's see here. So in the discussion that Commissioner Barboa just had about the provider conference group, I think that's really great, just getting providers together, talking about shared challenges, new issues, emerging issues. And I was just going to suggest that some way of getting CEUs attached to that or another kind of value add might grow that network, because I think it's really important that we're getting people together in a space that all share these same challenges, but also same passions for behavioral health, mental health, addiction treatment, housing. So just a suggestion there, if we could find some ways to partner with the state on this, probably Mr. Bucas. I think that's a good segue into just recognizing the last few weeks here. We've had a couple of meetings, yourself, Mr. Gilbert Benavides with the city, myself, let's see, we've had Councilor Renee Grout, Vice President of Council, as well as some state legislators, state senators, state representatives, and representatives of the administration locally and the governor's administration, all getting together and talking about legislation, talking about shared challenges in the behavioral health space, provider shortage, provider recruitment, Medicaid, all these kinds of things. So just wanted to commend you for helping with that and being present at those meetings. The last two, I think, are a little bit more of questions. So I guess going back to the wellness shelters, the wellness motel, when we passed the most recent tranche of funding, I made a floor amendment that I think garnered quite a bit of support. And it asked for an update in January. I think it was specifically, I think it was the second meeting in January, which would be this meeting. It asked for an update on, not just an update, but a capital plan for that facility, basically identifying, are there any locations within the county that we already own that might serve as a permanent home for that? Or could we identify other targets for that facility so that we could make sure that it has a permanent home and we have full control over what happens there and providing security there, all those kinds of things. So is that going to be part of this later on, or what happened with that? Because I haven't heard anything.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair Olivas, that's on me. I owe that to the county manager, and we'll have it on her desk first thing in the morning, and it will be to you. I failed to realize that it was for this meeting, so it will be on the agenda for the first meeting in February. That's on me. It is done. I just didn't turn it in, so that's on me. We did do a search, and so you do know, there's one location really within Bernalillo County that we own that we looked at, and I did provide all of the breakdown in the pricing of what it would look like to turn that into what we're doing at the wellness shelter. We also worked with real estate to comb the county. There was nothing within the unincorporated county that would meet the need. There were a couple of locations within the city of Albuquerque, and I included those in the report, and the county manager can provide that to you ahead of the meeting.
Fantastic. I'm glad that that didn't just completely fall off
it's
the
done
off the
sitting
hopper there. So
it's sitting on my laptop, so it'll be out first thing in the morning.
good. I'm glad that we're fairly far along on that. So thank you. And let's see here. I think I've got one more item. Just on the tiny homes, I wanted to go back to that and just commend the staff at BHI for their work there. I know it hasn't always been easy, and you know, it's been a long road to get those up and running and make those a success. But the fact that those homes have been lived in, and look, I've toured them, I've walked through them. They're small spaces, so you know, when you have somebody living in a small space like that, it's going to get lived in, right? Walls get banged up, and you know, mattresses and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a good thing that we're using them. And so I hope that with maintenance work, we can stay on top of that, turn them a little bit more quickly. But I just wanted to comment on, you know, 310 applications. That shows a huge need in our community for transitional housing, which is what this is. And so we've got 30 units, only 10 of those are vacant. So that means we have 300 other individuals, assuming that those are all unique individuals, that are looking for transitional housing. So we have a huge gap that we need to work on. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Olivas. Very important points.
Yep. Madam Chair, Commissioner Olivas, thank you, first of all, for your compliments, and it's been a real joy working with you. And BHI and behavioral health. We're just we're so thankful for the support that this board has given us to do the work that we do. So I appreciate it. I appreciate working with you and your acknowledgement of some of the challenges, and then offering your support and some solutions on how we can do things better. So thank you for that. I do think we're on a good path working with the legislators and being able to have the platform to express our needs and our ideas. So thank you for making that happen. Regarding the CEUs, thank you, noted, and we will work on that for next year. And then I can't remember the first thing. There was a lot. I just really appreciate your support, and thank you for that.
Thank you. Commissioner Benson has a question too.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Acosta, regarding the 10 remaining houses that are open and over 300 applications, do you anticipate anything preventing us from getting to full occupancy? And if so, or if not, when do you expect that?
So, Madam Chair and Commissioner Benson, I don't believe that there would be anything preventing us. I think the only challenge that I would see, and it would be a good challenge that we may encounter going forward, would be folks getting permanent housing fairly quickly and vacating those units. So that would be the challenge that we've always had, that we're placing them in permanent housing. That would be the only challenge, but we should be able to get to full occupancy. We just need to make those repairs.
Great, thank you. And yeah, that would be a great problem. I know it's a current great problem to have, which is the whole goal, is to transition out into permanent housing. Yeah, I actually, Madam Chair, I would like a report when we do hit full occupancy. I know it's been just an absolute labor of love to push this ball down the field. And when we do get to that full occupancy, my hat will go off to Commissioner O'Malley for starting this in the first place and believing in it. And yeah, and I've had questions about it from the beginning, but if we can get to full occupancy, I think it's something we should celebrate, and I'd like a report back to the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Barbeau.
Just thank you for the report again. I just want to understand what, I think we have been at full capacity at times, and we're consistently getting people into permanent housing or alternative housing. And it has been a lot, we've learned a lot in these years about how much it costs to run and what kind of staffing. And I just wanted to note, because I believe you said both and I just, because you asked about challenges, I think the challenges is the staffing, right? And I just want to make sure we're noting that, because we're already seeing, like, when we don't have capacity to meet those needs, then we put ourselves in a liability, right? And so we have to, if we're at capacity and we don't have the staffing to do it, then we have to call it. As much as I wish we could double up those places, especially on cold nights, I just think, I just want us to be very clear and transparent about that as a need, and that, while we have to also meet the needs of the of our potential employees. So both end, like, it's a challenge. We have to meet the needs. If we have to adjust, because this is where we're seeing across the board, and it's causing a lot of liability on our end, right? And so how do we meet those needs as a county, and how do we recruit and do the things necessary? And when necessary, just say we have to, we have to put a pause on accepting more. Like, I don't know how if we didn't have enough staffing capacity, we shouldn't be opening application processes, I guess. Sort of part of what I would advise too. Just because when people get, like 300 people can get re-traumatized by, having hopes for a thing that then they, 4 weeks later might get a call back for the 10 open spots.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Marble, thank you for acknowledging that. That is something that we take into consideration, where there was a slight pause at the end of December and at the beginning of early January, where we had to consider, the staffing needs and then also being available for the individuals that currently are there. So that is something that we take into consideration. I also wanted to assure the board that of those 310 applicants, we are providing case management and feedback, a connection with those individuals to let them know and provide resources to them, to let them know that the Tiny Home Village is a support system to them should they have any questions while they're waiting. We do give them resources. One of the things that we did was we also went to the encampments that were around the Tiny Home Village to also offer the application to them as well. Our staff took phone calls for those who couldn't read or write or didn't have access to a computer, and sat with them during that time while the application was open, and all of December to fill out those applications over the phone. So we did everything that we could to get the most people to apply for it, and that way we would have a consensus. So Commissioner, as you were mentioning, and I think Commissioner Olivas even mentioned that shows the need, and we wanted to help where we could. So,
Thank you, Bill.
thank you.
Jessica Jaramillo, please.
Good evening, Madam Commissioner, Commissioner, Vice Chair, and Board of Commissioners. I haven't seen everybody in a while.
Welcome back.
Yes, thank you. All right, so I do apologize. I did have a PowerPoint. Unfortunately, we're unable to get it, but we could definitely send it to you after this if you would like to see it. I would love to you guys to see the pictures of our young adult program. The construction is finally done, and so it looks beautiful. It's phenomenal, and so we're excited to be close to opening that program. But as far as our detox and our observation and assessment, we still continue to be at capacity for both, pretty much on a daily basis. I know through both first and second quarter, we had about 3 COVID closures, meaning that someone was in our facility and then left and then unfortunately tested positive for COVID. So we do have to close down for at least 5 days to make sure that no one else tests positive. Luckily, no one did, so we're good. And of course, that's our last one was right during the New Year's Eve, so it was not a good way to start the year. But everything's going well. We've been working very hard with the city of Albuquerque. I would like to give them some kudos, especially Albuquerque Community Services, ACS, especially during the cold nights. We were getting a lot of individuals who were not really seeking our services. They're looking for shelter. And so we really welcomed everybody coming in, and then we worked with the city even before those cold nights to say, where can we be able to transport these clients, or where can they go? And so they opened up their other shelters that they have as for their overflow if the West Side shelter is closed. But then they also gave us the ACS hotline, and so we are able to call any ACS and they would actually come and pick up the clients. So we've been very fortunate to have that relationship with them and to be able to get everybody that is coming to our doors looking for shelter, at least a warm place to be. So we're very fortunate for that. Also, our living room continues to do amazing. So we had the past 2 quarters, we had a little over 1,300 individuals come and utilizing our living room. What we noticed is there's 3 main reasons why they were coming. The majority of the reason is they just wanted someone to talk. And so being able to just come in and talk to one of our peer supports for support, advice, whatever they're needing, that's what the majority reason why they're coming in. So we're always welcoming that. And another reason is they're hungry. A lot of them, they may have missed meals that a lot of these other providers provide for them. And so they do come over and they ask us for food. And so we just got some ARPA funding approved so that we can order more food for them. And so we're providing beef jerky, noodles, stuff that they requested. We kind of took a little survey a while back to kind of see what foods that they're wanting. And so we are picking things that they're choosing, but we're also thinking, can we provide hot meals? And so we are looking at that, hopefully in the future, to be able to provide those meals for them. So, oh yeah, that's very good. I also wanted to recognize our Take a Ride on Us, the Uber rides that our local DWI does fund. We had a huge success during the holiday time. And so usually our whole goal for the whole year is about 8,000. So that means 8,000 individuals utilizing the code and then using Uber during special events. And so we're a little over 5,000, and so we've still got a few major events coming for this year, and so we're hoping to meet our goal. But we were very excited to see that for Christmas, 1,270 individuals downloaded the Uber code, and 760 individuals actually used it, which is a huge, huge, great success. And then for New Year's Eve, we had 4,000 individuals download the code, and 1,853 people actually took a safe ride home. So that just means that people are making the right decision of not drinking and driving and using the code. So we're very excited about that. And of course, our young adult, like I mentioned, our construction is complete. And we actually got to present. We actually thought we were presenting to the judges of young adult court, but we actually presented to the whole clients of young adult court. So there was about 45 to 50 young adults in there. And we were able to provide what the young adult program is, how long the length is. We actually expanded it to 45 days instead of 30, which they were very happy about. But it was really good for us to really see the population that we'll be working with and the clients that we'll be working with. And so we did ask Ms. Tanya Tijerena if we could actually be in young adult court a couple more times to kind of get familiar with the clients. And even just meeting with them that first, we kind of saw what needs that they were needing. A lot of them were wanting to, of course, look for jobs, but they didn't, they don't have a GED. So working with the staff, well, how do we get those resources so that they can start working on their GED while in the program? And so working with, animal care, with our supportive aftercare clients, maybe adding on the young adult, I'm sure they would love that. And so it's just keeping them busy. They love to do things, keeping themselves busy, as they said. And so we're trying to keep them more occupied and really involved in the community, just knowing that it's fun to be sober. It's fun to be able to do these things while you're sober. And so we're very excited to be hopefully opening that program here in the next month or so. I know, of course, staffing is always the concern. However, I think looking at it, we need at least 5 more techs to be able to open that program. And I think we have about 3 that are pending. So we're almost there.
Great.
think that's it, and I stand for questions.
Any questions for Ms. Jaramillo? Commissioner Barboa? We quit you before you asked.
Even before I turned on my light. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Director Jaramillo. Jessica Jaramillo, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, am I tripping though? No, thank you. These are great updates. I'm excited to see, and I'm so thankful for you going and meeting with the young adult clients and
Yeah.
getting to see and be a presence with them. I think so much relies on relationships and reliability and being visible to build that trust that we're a place that they trust they can come to. And I think I'm glad you will do that at least a couple more times. I think, as you guys are thinking about name change and stuff, asking them, like having real conversations, what would make this not a place that you feel is not good for you? Like, how would this be a place, what even in the name could we think about that this would be a welcoming place to you? So just appreciations for doing that work, and thanks, please keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming in. Very good work. Okay, with that, the announcement of the next commission meeting is Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. There's a zoning meeting at 4:30 here in the chambers. And Tuesday, February 6th, 2024, administrative meeting, at 5 p.m. here in the chambers. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.